Really casual. I'm sorry.
Need more chairs? Yeah. Worksheets and hands on the table, that could be something to write with. Okay, I'll keep one back here to see. Thanks.
Pardon me? Your music wasn't turned on. All right. Taking a deep breath. No, this is, I mean, very, very humbling. And also I think more than anything, y'all should be giving yourself a pat on the back for being here, seriously, and in my opinion, taking advantage of the opportunity, which is the input building, the available dollars that are out there that, in my opinion, can do do so much good in this community, particularly through the lens of, I mean, I just see like so much diversity and so much like subject matter expertise, all of you all, right? And so if we didn't think about you were all properly resourced in order to do the things that it is that you want to do, right? And just imagine what sort of impact you could have in this community. So I'll get us started with Dr. King's, the quote that we're using as our mantra for this workshop. Obviously, we got the day off, so being mindful, example, as it relates to this concept of collaboration and, you know, I mean, for being perfectly honest, like identifying the resources that you need in order to make the type of difference on the work you talk about. Getting started with this quote from Dr. King, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Whatever you have to do, keep moving. You know, I love. And so, you know, I'll give us a broad overview of our agenda today. You know, I want us to, number one, I want you all to walk away with an idea of your grant writing strategy first. So, you know, by some of the work that we do today, you'll have an idea you need to go for or go after it for. But that, you know, I don't, you know, I hate it when I see like all those influencers and people online promising you, oh, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z for you, right? Like pay $100 for my grant writing class and you're gonna land the grant, it's gonna get you to where you wanna go. I can't promise you that, you know, as a result of your activity today. But I think what I can say, reinforce the fact that grants are a viable resource for you as we're thinking about 2024, and that you have additional resources that you probably weren't mindful of that maybe the things you're not good at. You can work on these grants together, right? And the idea, we're seeing this room of, I think we got about 30 people in. Well, just because you as an individual ready for a grant doesn't mean there are 4 or 5 other people operating. And so, you know, I'm gonna talk. This is probably the most amount of talking I'm gonna do, and then Kenneth, there's there he is. He's gonna lead us in, you know, lots of exercises and some of our work today. But you know, my biggest thing is that as we start, I like to sort of consider grants to be almost like touchdowns in football, right? You know, where it takes typically like a lot of effort and energy in order to get a grant application going, right? And then the other thing is that we are typically as individuals still dealing with the pressures of, well, we know we don't have the grant and we need to go after the grant, but we also got to keep the lights on, right? And so we have to figure out ways to, this is when I say it's a little bit more like basketball, we got to make layups every day, right? So whatever your number is, you know, whether you are a nonprofit, focus on fundraising, or whether you're an individual operating a business, we all know that sometimes hitting that minimum every day is not so easy. And so the idea is that we are mixing up a combination of the two things as we figure out how we're gonna not only get through the year, but how we're gonna be successful this year, right? So whether or not you're a nonprofit, an individual, a collective of people, this is gonna be a workshop for you. You can take the lessons and apply that to wherever you are in your journey. But again, like grants are only part of the equation, and we also want to be mindful of things that we're going to pay our bills and keep the lights on, right? Thing is that you need to land 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of those grants and not maybe offsets weeks worth of work, right? All right, so on that note, we're officially 20 minutes into today's meeting. You know, the goal is to get you all out of here by about 1:30, but we'll be flexible. Again, the idea is that Kenneth and I aren't just droning on and on. The idea is that we are taking some of the lessons, some of the theory, some of the examples, and then we're going to spend time today thinking through what grants we're eligible for, what we're going to do, and what that looks like. And then you guys are also going to count on each other to help with some of the conversations, right? So on that note, let's go ahead and get started. So, just a little bit about Black Cactus, and I recognize there's some faces here, at least from our grand opening. Black Cactus has been in business since, I want to say, July this year. And thank you. Last year. Exactly. That's how we go. You know what I'm saying? Like, how's it go? It's all like that. And, what I could say is that, I've been in 29 Palms for about 4 years now. I work as a remote employee. I do some consulting on the line, or online, excuse me, but at the end of the day, I'm a writer, and I consider myself to be a creative. I got lots of the creative juices in me. However, I recognize that not just me, but a lot of us, we have the creativity in us, but the science of actually growing and running a business, it takes some time. You gotta research, you gotta try things. And I think the challenge is if you don't have a ton of time to experiment and to try things, well, before you know it, sometimes you compromise on your dreams. And so that's not the goal of Black Cactus. Like, we want this to be a safe space for you all to continue to dream and dream big. However, you will get some tough love from us in that, if you got a dream but you don't have a plan, how are you gonna get there? You know what I'm saying? So the goal is to use this space to continue to dream big, and whether it's with me, whether it's with Kenneth, or whether it's with you all, right? The idea is that you're identify some logic for yourself that will, allow you to continue to dream. And so, just a little bit about Kenneth. Kenneth is, a mentor of mine, and then he's also an advisor and an early investor in the Black Cactus. Again, when I moved out here in 29 Palms, I was really looking to build my network. This is, during COVID-19, and Kenneth offered his mentorship and advice, and that tough love that we just got done talking about, like, yeah, I'm gonna do all this, and I'm gonna do this, and do this. You're like, okay, go do it. You know what I mean? And before you know it, after a while, it was more listening and asking and having conversations, right? To then start working on planning and strategy. And what I can say is that in addition to landing some grant dollars as a result of Kenneth's feedback, he also, put me in a position where I was able to volunteer on some nonprofit boards. And if I'm being perfectly honest, one of my biggest wins was helping one of the organizations that I was on the board of land a 6-figure grant, right? $125,000 that then helped to fund their programming throughout the year, But a lot of that, the scrutiny that I applied to that process was as a direct result of, yeah, you can do everything that you want to do, but do you actually have the time to plan it out and to source it out, right? And a lot of that is, the reason why we want to collaborate, stop having the conversation in your head. Put down pen to paper, right? Allow somebody to improve it, and then you improve it, right? And then what I think you'll see after time is that the likelihood of you landing something, will begin to improve over time, right? If you can continue to be patient. So find yourself a mentor, find yourself collaborators, and be committed to this process of improvement.
Any questions or comments?
Okay? And I'm almost done here. So, and then again, just a big thank you to the city of 29 Palms for sponsoring today's event. In particular, I just want to shout out Hannah for all the work that you've done and believing in us. I think that what we have recognized that there's a ton of creativity here in 29 Palms, and again, just being mindful that that's quite literally their role to support all of us in our endeavors, right? I couldn't have asked for more of like a vote of confidence, right? And so I think then we have this really unique opportunity to take our art and apply that to this kind of campus out here in our Palms society. All right, so we're good. All right, so first and foremost, who knows, and I've probably used the word grant 100 times, but I want to ask somebody who knows what a grant is, and more importantly, who can define it for us?
Free money.
Free money, talk to us about that free money. Can you give us a little bit more, talk to us about it?
Well, I'm a PAC, grantee. I have been for the last almost 5 years. It is, funding that goes towards, the children, the art classes that teach, that, so that no child is turned away at my facility. If they say they can't afford it, how much do you for it? Whatever that baseline is for them, nobody says.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I think that's the beauty, and we're probably, I'm sorry.
I'm Gretchen.
Gretchen, pleasure. So, I mean, Gretchen's absolutely right. Like grants are free money. Now, free can be a little bit of a loose term depending on who's writing the grant, right? Yeah, exactly. You want to explain?
I just feel like it's like writing fiction, and then when they say, okay, here's the money, then you have to make it come true. So.
Well, I mean, that's a very important distinction, right? And that's, so we have to be a little bit reminded of who is giving away the money, why they're giving away the money, how they're giving it away, when, all that sort of good stuff, right? I think that Gretchen did display that she just had this idea and she wanted to not pay for it. She wanted it to be completely free for the people that she wanted to serve. And so her job then was to ask, right? And then eventually somebody said yes. Now, you know, where I would caution us about the free part is that, you know, typically, you know, I sort of consider we have like 4 resources at any given time: time, energy, attention, and money. And typically we have 3 and we want more of the 4th, right? And so in this instance where you have, somebody has lots of money, you are trading your time, your energy, and your attention in order to land some money, right? However, once you get the money, sometimes there might be more time, energy, and attention required just in the application, right? Once you actually receive the funds, there might be this, you have to maybe report on, right? And so that money that you may be asked for, and that's what we have to be a little bit careful on. Well, did you ask for enough money to do the thing that they are actually asking for, or did you write the application to just get the money, right? Because if you just get the money and you're not doing the other thing, that might directly impact either getting money in the future, or they might even cancel your grant, right? Because you're not living up to your end of the agreement. Which, if we're coming full circle, right, that's why it's so important for us to not only apply to grants, but then we also have to, you know, and while you're prototyping your concept, I'm sure you could have asked for, you know, cheaper grants, you could have, you know, maybe sold something, right? But the idea is, how are we being agile and flexible, right, based off of what each grant's requirements are. So they're not guaranteed. So I've got about 3 minutes and then I'm gonna tap it over to Kenneth, but my thought process is that we'll take like a 5-minute break to make, no? Okay, all right, never mind. Well, isn't that, we're coming to get our check, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's time. So, you know, as it relates to, you know, what grants can actually be used for, they really can be used for almost anything, right? So anything that you would, you know, if you were to like sell a product or a service, right? You would then maybe take the money that you made from your sales and invest it in your business or pay yourself, right? You can use grant money to pay yourself to do a job. Like that's something that we can be, you know, a little bit mindful of, right? And so Coriano and I were talking the other day about, you know, what grants can be used for, who can get grants. Anybody, you know what I mean? Mostly what you want to be mindful of is who's writing the check, again, why they're writing the check, who they're looking for, why they're looking for them, et cetera, exactly, right? So part of your process then becomes in the form of proper research. And we're going to talk about some of the channels that we have available to you. But, you know, if you think about maybe how stressed out you are, if you don't have the money or the revenue or the sales, that like you're not productive, you're not getting the job done, right? Because you're thinking about, I mean, at least me, I don't know about y'all, but like I'm typically panicking. How am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay this, right? Versus, you know, if like with the right proper planning and procedures, you know, in my opinion, focusing on sales and understanding that grants can help me to focus on sales, it allows me to channel that anxiety versus being stressed. That's something that I can do. I'm not selling nothing right now. Well, I can try to get some grants, right? And then what happens? You start applying for grants, and the process of getting your application better, it starts feeding into the other side. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you've had to proven why somebody should give you grant money, and now you've got the language to tell somebody why they should buy from you or support you. You know what I'm saying? So it almost like it serves you to leverage both grant making or going after grants as well as trying to drive sales. And that's something that I've had to learn as a small business owner, as a creative, right? And one that, you know, I'm going to be married to moving into the future. I'm looking at grants to apply for this year. So on that note, I'm done. I'm going to tap it over to Kenneth. Kenneth's going to talk a little bit more about just like theory and knowledge around nonprofits and, you know, ways to apply for grants as a nonprofit. But the theory applies to everyone. Okay, so what do you get started?
So how many are actually already have a nonprofit? How many are interested in creating a nonprofit or like doing research in nonprofit? How many are for-profit? Have LLC and for-profit? So there can be a marriage because the for-profit can give, instead of giving to Uncle Sam, can give to the nonprofit. So in terms of a community, that's a working relationship. And actually the balance to have a profit and nonprofit. Most of your big companies will have a foundation that's their nonprofit. So just understanding that structure. But it always comes down to for-profit and nonprofit. They're totally separate when it comes to asking people for money. Okay? You do want to get it twisted. You want to get it twisted so that they're separated. And because in the end, you have to have your 501c3, which is a federal designation, and then there's a state designation for nonprofits. And there are some fairly easy ways to go about that. I'm gonna play a note here. This is a D actually, and it kind of can help us kind of center and get in sync a little bit. The D is when my frequencies say I'm missing some D, so I bring some D in. It actually helps put me in the middle. Because what we're talking about is extremism in a lot of ways, but if we're in the middle, you can go. These concepts kind of apply to a number of things. So let's see what we have here.
I just created a new tab.
So what I've done is I've actually gone through, because YouTube, there's no sense in me just repeating what somebody else says. And this way, because we're so short on time, I created resources that you can actually go through, and they're available here on the Black Cactus website. Terrence, can you, if I give it to you, I'm gonna keep talking.
Yeah.
You can write it down up here on the board.
So if no,
But
but if you need access to the e-course that he has, you just need to send me an email, and I can write down my email address.
Okay,
And I can
all right. So 7 must-haves for a nonprofit is the first one that gives you it tells you what you must have as a nonprofit. And Amy here, Karen, we lost our audio here. Let's see.
Oh, I just turned it down.
Oh, okay.
All right. Get a grant writing for a nonprofit. In order to make sure that you can be successful and increase your odds of getting the grant.
And so what I'm gonna do is play you just some excerpts from these, so you get an idea of what's here. And then it's up to you to go back and listen to the whole thing. And they're all kind of promoting their own thing, but what they say is what I believe. And so, like I said, no sense in me re-saying it or have to go create some big, video. So, so this grant writing,
Amber Melody Smith, and I am a nonprofit founder and executive director of the nonprofit that I started. I have been making these videos here on YouTube, sharing all the things that I've learned through the nonprofit experience, from fundraising and grant writing to board management and everything in between. So I hope that you find this helpful. Don't forget to
some of that, and we'll do the church.
start writing grants in order to be successful. The first thing you need before you can start to apply for grants is your official nonprofit status. And if you're in the USA, which I think most of us
So nonprofit
your
status.
board approved annual budget for your organization.
Okay.
Your nonprofit's official annual budget is the budget, of course, that shows your anticipated income and expenses as a nonprofit for whatever your fiscal year may be. And you might know that you can choose what you want your fiscal year to be as a nonprofit. Many organizations choose January 1st to December 31st. You can do July to June. It really doesn't matter. But a lot of different things about your organization you are requesting grant funding for. I want to add that this is not necessarily a grant, is your program or project budget for the specific thing you are requesting grant funding for. I want to add that this is not necessarily something that a grant maker will require you to submit to them. If you are applying for general operating support, this might not be something they request, but if you're asking for a grant to support a specific program or project, it is likely that they will ask for a separate budget than your annual board approved operational budget. The fourth thing that you need to have on hand in order to apply for grants is information about your leadership, especially your board of directors. Many grantors, especially in the past couple of years, want to know more about the people behind the organization. And your board of directors is, of course, known as the legal leadership team of your nonprofit, especially in the United States. The fifth thing that you want to have prepared and at the ready before you can apply for a grant is your organization's mission statement, vision statement, and history. The sixth thing you want to have ready to apply for grants is a clear program description and sometimes even a logic model. So this is a couple of different things for your program. And the seventh thing that you want to have ready to go before you apply for grants relates a little bit to that logic model I just described, and that is past data and outcomes demonstrating your success. Having quick and easy access to all past data and metrics and survey results and however you are tracking the impacts of your organization will make it so much more quick and easy to answer this.
Okay.
Nonprofit leaders and managers,
So that's the very first one you saw, and they're already here, so you can just go from 1, 2, 3, 4, and you need the detail. So now here's a checklist for 24.
you haven't already started, you're thinking about 2024 and planning ahead, it's a great time to get started. In this video, I'm going to talk through a checklist of things that you should be thinking through to plan ahead for the next year, as well as provide some tips and tools and strategies to help you get ahead of the game. It's budget planning, so let's get into a little bit of this. The first thing is, hopefully you're doing this year-round, at least quarterly, but ideally even closer to monthly, especially if you're a smaller or newer organization, still figuring out a lot of your fundraising and financial units. But the first thing you need to do is really assess your financial statements and get a picture of the financial health of your organization. Thing number 2 that you need to be doing some thinking around for the year ahead is your fundraising strategy. And I wanted to list this second because it goes hand in hand with your budgeting strategy, as I alluded to in the last section. So you really should be developing your fundraising strategy simultaneously to developing your budget for the next year. And as I was saying before, how you want to start this process is by really getting clear on what has been working from a fundraising perspective in the year before. I've talked about in several other videos, something like that happens. All right, the third bucket of planning that we're going to talk about is programming and program evaluation. Hopefully throughout the year, you are keeping an eye on the impacts that you're making through your programming, but it's really important to especially do this and look at the data that you have been able to collect around the success of your programs when you're doing your budgeting and fundraising planning for the next year, because everything is interconnected. Well said. All right, let's get into area number 4, and that is board of directors development. Ideally, your board of directors should be improving and getting more and more effective every single year of your organization. So having a board assessment or board evaluation mechanism can help you set a baseline to measure the effectiveness year over year. All right, number 5, and the last stuff that we'll talk about today is strategic planning. This is your big picture, bird's eye view roadmap of how your organization is ultimately going to work to achieve its mission, what you have in your mission statement. So if you already have one, consider at minimum an annual review of that strategic plan and look at it with a really critical eye and ask yourself, what's working, what might have changed to the external environment that is now impacting this plan and might force us to change some of these things ourselves. What is relevant, what's not working, what we need to change, etc. I remember back when I was writing some of my very first nonprofit grants. I've done some other types of writing before, so I thought, how hard grant writing really be? Through the help of a very patient mentor and a lot of practice, I learned that nonprofit grant writing is quite a bit different from a lot of other types of writing. So in this video, I want to share a handful of some of the tips that my first nonprofit mentor gave me that I really believe contributed to my future success in grant writing. That is, do your homework. Before you even sit down to write a grant proposal or fill out a grant application, you've got to do your homework to make sure that the application you're filling out or the grant you're applying for is one that you're actually eligible for, one that is a good fit for your organization. This is the top mistake that people make when applying for grants, is just throwing out all their applications in the hopes of something sticking. But what will happen is funders will get applications for projects or missions that they're not actually interested in. They don't have listed as the issues that they are interested in on their website, and they will automatically disqualify those applications. It's clear. One thing people don't necessarily think about when they're applying for grants is the fact that these grant makers or foundation team members are reading dozens or sometimes even hundreds of grant applications. So if the grants include a lot of unnecessary text or flowery language or information that just isn't relevant to the application, they might feel like you are wasting their time and you're wasting your own time to application or proposal for easy reading. And we know that grant applications and proposals take a couple of different forms. Maybe it is an online application where you're just answering questions in fields. Sometimes it's a bit more open-ended. They might be asking you to write a letter or a proposal on a document that's a little bit more free-flowing, and you determine the appropriate structure in that case. No matter which way you would be submitting your proposal or application, there are some things you can do to help make the reading experience a little easier for the funder reading your application. Language. When my mentor gave me this tip a long time ago, I thought it was really interesting. It's not something I would have thought of on my own, but the tip is to basically speak the language of the funder, of the grant maker. Use some of their own words or phrases back at them in your proposal. Incredible research in your grant application. It's really important to demonstrate that you know your subject matter, that you are, if possible, an expert subject matter, especially when it comes to, the research around the issue that your nonprofit is tackling in order to serve its community. I think will make a real difference for your organization. It seems like a no-brainer, but I need something a little bit more specific than what you might be thinking. I mean, of course, money will help with the nonprofits. This is obvious. But what I'm specifically talking about here is you want to be able to clearly articulate the difference in the future state of your organization in a world in which you have received this funding and your current state of the organization. What are the concrete ways that you can explain how and why the money would help you amplify your organization's ability to serve its community?
Hello, welcome to the grant writing training. Michelle?
Okay, is this going okay, or I'm just giving you bits, you can go back and listen to all of it, but I felt this was the best use of our time is to go through something that's already prepared. Now, this one is a complete step-by-step, I'm gonna go through pretty quickly.
Now, we operate that goes step by step. I want to encourage you to dial in and to really focus and remove all distractions. Because as valuable information shows in our time today. So with that said, who is this for? This is for anyone interested in learning the fundamentals of the proposal and the steps. What is a grant proposal? What those elements are executed versus how do we do that proposal application as well as practices, record, and trends? Shall we go all versus one way to write next? And this is to become a grant writer. We'll also explore some case studies in development. The first steps to writing a proposal always start with an idea. What is the idea? You are hoping to bring to fruition the organization as a parent of the and now you're seeking additional funding to help with that development. With that in the case, any organization will be required to do some planning. Flesh out the details of what the program is and what your initiative is about that you're seeking funding for. I'll just say now. The first thing is that you want to make sure that you should be writing a great grant proposal in the first place. I say this because a lot of people are writing grant proposals for things that cannot get funded. And we want to ensure that you are not wasting your time. The second thing that I want to encourage you is to read the grant application guidelines correctly. This will help you to know if you actually qualify to be funded from a particular funder. So make special note of the requirements and detail what the funder is requesting. They will detail and say, this is what you need to do in order to apply for our potential grant. And it doesn't mean it's going to get funded, but all these steps increase your likelihood of actually being funded. They said they don't want this to coming across to an email, and they don't want it back. They don't even want you to come and hand deliver. So some funders will allow these things, but this particular funder does not. So we want to make sure that we cater to each funder what they are specifically asking for. Notice this next thing. If you anticipate or experience leadership or major staffing or programmatic changes, they want to know that at the beginning. So this is kind of giving you a feel of the interest in different information such as your 994. Remember, we want to make sure that we gather everything to present a complete message. Now, with that being said, let's move on and take a look at some other things about what makes a good proposal versus a bad proposal. So, can you guess what makes a good proposal? Well, let me share a few things with you. And this is the first step to writing a grant proposal. We want to make sure that we have a proposal that is easy to understand. We're not striving to be sophisticated and very complex. We're striving to be understandable. We also want this to be clear and concise. You don't have to go on forever and ever. Get to know. It should be something that is true, meaning that we actually get done the time frame that we specify. It also needs to detail what will be done. receiving this grant will experience. You need to paint a vivid picture that brings to life what you're proposing to do, and it also needs to flow and have continuity. That is exciting, that helps the reader to envision a brighter future. The organization and what you're proposing to do is one part of that solution. That said, let's move on to making sure that we write a good proposal. So what goes inside of the grant proposal? Here are the different sections. We have a cover sheet and a table of contents. We'll also have an activity summary that typically is 1 page long. You'll also have a statement of need. This tends to be about 2 pages long, and we'll have and organizational information that's typically about 1 page. And then the conclusion is about 2 paragraphs long. Finally, you'll have appendix and supporting materials. Now, the information that I share from here is what will typically go inside of a private or what is called a foundation grant proposal. When you're dealing with a government grant proposal, also those proposals can be much longer and a few other changes. You provide all these information in a situation.
So I skipped over to develop the grant writing plan, use a team approach in grant writing, read everything before you write anything. So that's a big mistake. People just read some initial and they think, oh, we're gonna go after this. Take the time, it's an investment. This is the pre-production part of the grant, and it'll save you, because at a certain point you see something, oh, we can't do that, or we don't qualify. You scrap it and go on. You might send it to somebody else that might qualify, you know, as a referral, but you're not wasting your time going through this process. Including evaluation and grant proposal. How are you going to evaluate the program? How are you going to actually say that this program is working? What independent or built into the process, and developing that feedback with your participants can help, and them being able to tell their story, which then amplifies what they're doing. Use picture charts, graphics, if permitted, sometimes they're not. Provide relevant, up-to-date information. So as things change, and the more you communicate with the grant funding source, if something changes, they appreciate it, because they're going on only what you've given them, and if things change, so that's part of the rapport. Not only do you need to know them, they need to know you. Okay?
That's the up-to-date and kind of dynamic. Don't want to come across as data. You want to come across as an organization. Every manage. It's a point. Tell you this one. Now, let's talk about the overall way of doing that. And also the overall successful response. Not just from the background, have more comprehensive strategy. Also, several proposals as many as possible. The only is trying to saying when you saw your agency or other staff members address this issue. That's why I'm so happy that we're here right now running this information. The always telling prospective funders what you want and thinking that that's enough to gain a more sophisticated approach. And it's also thinking that your grant proposal is the only thing that's influencing the decisions making. Trust me, my friend, I talk to several funders all the time, and one thing that I heard is that they're looking at more than just your grant proposal. Now, the overlay is just like that soup, it's just on the left. I really like the soup that's on the right. We have something that is custom for each funder. It involves a highly personalized solution to addressing specific challenges. Just like a tailor-made soup, we want to make sure that we're fitted for the funders that we're applying to. And we want to use the best practices of a proven system to help increase your chances of success. That means that it's going to involve various learning modalities, which seeing, hearing, seeing, why is this important? Well, I show. You only learn 10% of what you read. So you can learn by writing, by reading a book, but you can only get to the 10% of it. When you start to about learning what you're reading and seeing, you can use the brain, you can even see something, which increase your learning up to 20%. And you can get to read, see, and hear like you're doing right now. Your learning goes up to 30%. And it goes up to 7% if you're reading, seeing, and you are actually involved. So you're seeing, reading, you're hearing. And the 9% is when you're reading, see, hear, say, and look at that last part, when you do. So part of your learning that I would encourage you is to make sure that you're doing versus simply hearing, seeing, saying, because it helps you to learn at a much higher rate.
Kenneth, what are some ways that we could show, not tell, in writing our grants?
There's so much to go through, Karen, if somebody has a question, interrupt me, but
It also involves working the relational connect, meaning that to move with that relationship. It means contacting the friend, having things and also technology, other things to your event. It also entails making sure the relationship with make more sense. That's another thing we learn from that. This is a team approach, keeping it power. Time will commit to great detail. And we want to make sure that we're informed and aligned so that we can be successful as possible. Now, any of that.
okay, are there questions? Yeah.
I have a question. I know about myself that I'm often not, a great auditory learner, that I like hands-on, sort of interactive. And I know that you mentioned that there was, a e-course. Is there a possibility of having a workshop where you?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
In fact, I had done this like a couple of months ago, and I was hoping to have you watch and be up to speed, and then I would go through some of the other ones. I made some of them public, and I kept the ones that I'm going through now were private, but we didn't get to that. So post, if you just email Terrence, he will send you a link to this, and you can go through all of these at your leisure, pick what you want, and you'll actually be in our ERP system, so that we're developing grant writing and teaming and grouping and cohorts and.
Yeah, that's what, I guess that's my question, and I imagine some others are interested too, is, you know, that you have such amazing presence and energy, and it would be lovely to be able to sit and have like, we sign up for longer term workshops where we all meet.
Well, the first thing is understanding what we're doing, and the videos do it better than I could do.
So, I mean, on that note, we have another workshop that's taking place in March. So the idea is that we're using this first one to get acclimated with the content, and then ideally, you are spending the next 6 to 8 weeks preparing and working on understanding the grants that you want to apply for, the programs that you're interested in developing. And then ideally in March, right, we can start reviewing some of your applications and working with you on them. But between now and then, if there's, hold on, just let me finish this. If there's interest, we can post additional
And if there's
sessions here.
interest, we can continue to work and match people up and get to know who's doing what and look at what's going on. I mean, the whole thing is, we have the internet. I mean, what are we waiting for, right? I basically spent a couple of days, maybe 6, 7 hours searching and watching these videos to put together this sequence. And you see here, so the next section here is funding grants. Is the section that I created in here, 9 places for nonprofit grants. Again, I'm gonna go through them quick, because if you see here, this is RFP, they're studying RFP, there's grant funding, crack the code to grant funding with insider strategies to startup success, nonprofit fundraising, 7 traits of top fundraising campaigns. The campaigns and initiatives are things that you do over a long period of time, that you get your branding and your feedback. And then look at all of these for artificial intelligence, using start with what you're doing, and then you have AI provide a plan or an outlook or an outline or some more information that you may not be an authority on, but it can at least extract that and give you on your specific, because the innovation at the user level, at the grant writing person's level is really what makes you stand out when amongst all the sea of other grants that are going in, right? So understanding your specialty, your branding, and then collaboration is a big one now. So they want, so that we're not duplicating. There's 5 agencies and they're all asking for the same thing, but the 5 agencies go together and just say, well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and then we're all working together. Chances are it can go through. So that's why I'm kind of rushing through this, but all this is here, and budgets, there's a whole thing on budgets. Budgets is one of the craziest things, because it has to match your narrative. You can't just go put numbers down. And HR is your most critical aspect on your proposal. Because your HR needs to match the activities that you're saying you hired that person to do. If they don't have the background or the skills or whatnot to do what you're saying to do, the funding agency can kind of figure that out. They look at their resume, or they, right now, I mean, most of our information is online, you can find it. They will do the research, especially after you make the first cut. So you have a great innovative idea, you have the track record, you have a nice board. Then they say, oh, here are the 10 that we want to fund. Let's dig a little deeper. Let's send it to the B team that's going to actually go and see who these people are and what have been done and that sort of stuff. So that's why I'm kind of rushing through this, because we have a time sensitive. And if you at least get a taste of it, you can then go back and spend as much time as you want. And all of these have comments. All you have to do is comment. Actually, this is the actual website. So to share full screen, full screen is a comment. So just let me go through a couple more of these, and then we can go through the others. So 9 places to search for grants. That's what this is.
One of many possible ways that nonprofits can fundraise, but finding them can often be a challenge. In this video, I'm going to share 9 places where you can start to search for grants for your nonprofit organization. Disclaimer that many of the grant databases and grant searching sites often come with a paid membership subscription or fee. So I'm going to be focusing today on some of the free resources, whether that's free versions of some of those paid resources is grantstation.com. Now, this is a place where you can search for grants in the United States or in various countries around the world. You can search by geographical area or cause area. This is one of those sites that does have a paid level, but they're not that you can look at for free on the website.
I use GrantStation. I can tell you searches, because what I typically do is I go and search, and then I extract that and put it into my system, right? And then I can have Bank of America and all of them. And the GrantStation is kind of hope. I'm just gonna say it ran out for me, especially in social service. It's one that's pretty tough, and it's one of the cheaper ones, but what it does help you do is build your profile for creating the grant. It has that part. So I just wanted to say that, because that's what I've used recently for about a year.
Number 2 is Foundation Directory Online, and similar to GrantStation, this does have a paid subscription model, but there is a way that nonprofits can get access to this database for free. Number 2 is Foundation Local Library.
And that way is to go to a foundation center and get on their computer and search if they have a subscription to a library or a foundation center. Will give you access to it at their facility. And as long as you can do your searches, select, and say email it to yourself, then you'll have it and you can do whatever you want with it and email it. It'll give you a list of what you search for.
The third place you can search for grants is grants.gov. This is once again specifically grants that are in the United States, and these are large federal grants. So we're talking.
Now, the reason you want some type of municipal or government grant is for validation. It might not be a lot of money, but if you can get one of those, then other funders say, oh, they got a San Bernardino County grant, so they know you've been vetted, right, as an agency. So you do want to keep your eye out and try to target some of those, and even collaborate with someone, as long as you can say, I received county monies or I received federal monies, then that makes it easy. The others won't scrutinize you nearly as much. That makes sense? Okay, so that's why, these are some of the tips and
The grant writing practice. The fourth resource I'm going to share is the Community Foundation Locator. And this isn't exactly a website where you search for grants, but it is a website where you search for community foundations that offer grants. If you're not familiar, a community foundation is a foundation that gives out money to the nonprofits within a specific geographical service area. So you might have a community foundation of a particular region or city or county, and it's focusing on usually numerous issues or a select handful of issues within that geographical scope. The money comes from usually just community foundation. Number 5 is global giving. And this one is also a little bit of a unique case because they don't specifically have a list or database of grant makers on there, but what you do is you create a profile for your nonprofit and you launch fundraisers. And what they provide as value according to their website is they are a place where corporate foundations or grant-making foundations, they're going to global giving to that projects and organizations and find organizations and projects they might not have heard of before. 6 is Grant Gopher, like the little animal gopher, and it is a pretty decent website where you can search for generally up-to-date grants right there for free. You can search by geographical area. There's lots of different opportunities up there. They do also have a paid one, so there's quite a bit of information that you can find on there at the free level too. So another great resource where you might be able to find grants and opportunities. The 7th resource is grantmakers.io. So this is a very robust database, but I do, in my opinion, believe that it requires a little bit more of a learning curve because it's not going to necessarily show you upcoming applications and their deadlines and stuff like that. It's instead going to show you foundations and where they have made their grants. Now, this can be very useful information because if a particular grant is funding organizations with a similar mission to yours, you might surmise that that grant maker might be interested in your cause as well. But it does take a little bit more deeper investigation in order to get to that information. Number 8 is Let's Rome's Charity Grant List. This is not a database, but it is a web page that links to a bunch of corporate foundation grant-making philanthropic web pages. So you can go through there and get those links to each of the companies' grant-making, if they have it, information, which can save a lot of time. So thanks. 9, the final one I'm going to share with you today is a little bit of a bonus item because it focuses specifically on animal rescue operations and funding. So this is called the Animal Funding Atlas. And what it is it's a map showing the funders.
okay.
Hold on, Kenneth, we got a question back here.
Okay.
I have a question sort of based on some of the earlier, when it's talking about like applying for grants and being able to prove certain things, what if you're a really new nonprofit and you don't have a history showing success or
There are grants for startup and seed funds and that sort of thing. You tell your story.
Yeah.
And part of it is between a board, your passion, and what you plan to do, right? And how you're gonna actually accomplish what you say you're gonna do. And then the benefit to how many people over what period of time. So don't worry about, because everyone has to get started. The other thing that you can do who else is doing or something similar to what you're doing, and you make connection with them so that you're not duplicating or reinventing, that then will put you in a place of knowing how unique you are and being able to accentuate the aspects of your program that is causing you to even put your energy and time into it. Does that?
I wanna.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can I wanna build on that, that question because, so there's a umbrella funding, right? Like, so nonprofits with nonprofits come in to umbrella those nonprofits. One of my questions I wrote down is like, if you're working with an umbrella nonprofit that takes like 7% of state funding that you get from that nonprofit, how do you get out of that?
Oh,
That's the part that, you gotta build your own history.
right.
You're under.
But you get out of it by, when you go into it, they'll typically say for 1 year or for 6 months or whatever. Like community partners is a great one for doing that. And they say, stay with us 1 year. But it's not just they take 7%. They are liable, they're legally liable, they're financially liable. They will typically do your payroll, they'll do all the things, and it allows you to focus on your programming and your activity and raising money.
So how do you find umbrella companies? Is there like a list of those kind, or is it more like?
It's more kind of word of mouth. Like I say, Community Partners is downtown LA. They do all in California. And it's called communitypartners.org. And they have every odd month is the deadline. It costs nothing to apply. You go through and follow their narrative, create the budget, and you submit those online. And they'll tell you within 4 to 6 weeks whether you're under them or not. And what they do is they put a cover letter on every request that goes out, and they give you a rubber stamp. Well, this is the bond. They verify. They're like a $35 million company, been around 30 years, never been audited. They do all your taxes, they do all your filing, and you can spit off anytime. They say it takes about a month, but they'll create your chart of accounts. So they do a lot.
Sounds dreamy.
Yeah. Oh, okay, you accept it.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna go through this other one, but this lady is phenomenal. She is phenomenal. You come here.
What's her name, Kenneth? Abby.
She's on the list, and they all kind of.
First of all, I'm like, well, grants good. Once the word there are huge grants attached to it. Also, grants can be handle athletics, things like budgeting and planning events, community confidence, knowing that you have the resources you need to do it.
She's phenomenal. You need to watch this one. It's so much else that I need to cover that I need to, because I want you to just get a taste. She's good.
Downright frustrating, challenging, and completely overwhelming, even though where to start. Trust me, I've been there myself. But don't worry, I'm here to help. As a professional grant writer and consultant that sifts through these opportunities every single day, I'm going to answer the top most popular questions I get all the time from startup founders who are looking to raise funds using grants. So in this video, I'm going to cover what type of grants are available for you, how do you find grants, how to go about the grant writing process, and what you need to do to put together a really strong independent application so that you can increase your chances of getting funded to grow your company. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Stacey Chip with KeeperHappy.co, and our mission is to help startups and small businesses secure non-dilutive grant funding. And we specialize in helping science and tech startups secure funding from federal programs called the SBIR and the STTR. If you're interested in learning more about these,
So is that timely? You see where we're going with that?
What's STTR?
Because we're gonna run out of time here, but she's great. I've watched all of these, and that's why they're up here.
What's STTR?
I don't really know. It's some federal. Well, you have to watch.
All right.
So this is really,
Listen to this one.
So if you can help me, I just don't understand why you have that private, why you don't have, because I drive videos every week. And they're very helpful videos, action-packed, action-oriented videos. You can use it to develop a plan for your grant writing process. I'm gonna break this down. Now, I'm really giving away the sauce, right? Because some people like sell things that can help you document your writing process. But you can literally go in the chat and say, hey, write down a process or a protocol that I should use for writing grants. And this is especially for people who want to write grants, want to get the for writing grants, but don't have a system down and don't know where to start, right? And they, like, you can use it to create a job description for help. And you probably didn't think I was gonna say this. You probably thought I was just gonna focus on the actual writing of the grant, but I really wanted to expand the thinking around business tools. You can understand just how powerful it is. So say you want to hire a grant writer or you want to hire somebody to search grants, but you have no idea what to say, you have no idea how to structure your qualifications and the competencies and all of that, all you have to do is go to ChatGPT and say, hey, write out a job description for me for a part-time grant writer. And this is exactly how to write a proposal. It is asking it how to structure a piece of a proposal. So for example, one of the biggest aspects of a grant proposal is the need statement, called the problem statement, or sometimes you ask the question, why do you need funding? And so that's when you want to really start breaking down the issues that you're addressing, why it's a problem, for data and statistics. This section of the proposal really stumps people. And you may be prepared to write, but you may not know what to say. Well, I like this one. So you can ask Chat to explain something to you in a simpler way. You can literally say, explain it to me like I'm a fifth grader. So what happens when you're looking at a grant application and you see a question that you don't understand? And it could be around outcomes, it could be around a diversity statement. These are like questions I see in my Facebook group that people get stuck by. So when you encounter a question, you're like, I don't even know how to answer. Now, my first response to this would be, you need help with the grant proposal from a specific funder, you need to ask that funder. You need to be able to feel comfortable reaching out to that funder for more information. But that's not always possible. Or, let's be real, you may be doing this at the last minute and not have time to get a response. So you can say, explain this question to me like I'm a fifth grader and put the question in there and you can really break it down for you. And you can use ChatGPT to rewrite portions of a grant proposal. So if you're struggling with having a machine write for you, but actually written something and editing it or like making it more concise or making it more compelling, it actually asks ChatGPT that for you. Now, I'm not sure if there are limits, like character limits or word limits. I did try this before in this video, and I asked ChatGPT to make a phrase more compelling. And it actually put it back out there, and it made it more compelling. It didn't go to the word, but it actually did it. And so I'm not sure if
so when I got to this party, I went in and actually did, I do bard.google.com. Bard.google, it ties to your Google account. But the reason I use Google over ChatGPT, I don't know if anyone saw the 60-minute piece on it several months ago. Google is the search engine of the world. 90+% all searches are on Google. So what they did is they went through and created a specialized database from all the searches and all the got it kind of from ChatGPT, but their information, you realize how long they've been around and how many people. So, and ChatGPT does not use the internet, it only uses its database. So bard.google.com is what I use here.
We got two questions.
Okay,
No, I just, did you say bar?
B-A-R-D is in data.
It's right there, it's hard.
BARD.
Okay.
Okay. Over here, you have a question? No, thank you. And so I entered the prompt, and my prompt on this was create a nonprofit grant writing plan for digital divide. That's what I do, the arts and technology and digital divide. So nonprofit grant writing plan, bridging the digital divide, define your target audience, target community, grant focus, research grant. So it gave me a plan, right? Just that quick. So I just wanted to, when I was at this point of it, I said, she said she did it, Miko did it. It took me, what, all of a minute or less to go there and do that. That's her fifth one. There's several others on AI. There's several other videos here on AI, but hers was the most kind of succinct, I think, for what we were doing. Once you have access, you can go to, see, oh, here's one. ChatGPT versus Bard. So this one talking about the comparison of those two. Software, grantable writing software, and more. There's a whole bunch of here on ChatGPT. I've been doing it a fair amount. Let me jump to budget real quick.
Starting a nonprofit and have some questions about your nonprofit budget. In this video, I'm going to tackle 7 common questions I hear often about nonprofit budgets. Who knows, maybe the question that's on your mind and we'll get into. Jump right into these common questions. So question number 1 is, when should you be creating a nonprofit budget? I've heard from lots of folks who have done their budget at various stages. Some have done it before they filed for their nonprofit paperwork, some have done it afterwards, but you really need to be doing it when you're first starting out, before you file your paperwork at all. So there's a couple to that. One is it's part of your hopefully business plan that you're putting together before you launch a nonprofit. You need to have an understanding of the financial part of the nonprofit, how you're going to raise the money and spend the money to achieve your mission, connection, money for begin, and the actual spending on and how they're connected to executing on your mission. So
it's kind of complicated.
Question number 2 is how much of the average nonprofit's budget should be for salaries or paid staff? And like many of the answers I'm going to give in the video, it depends a lot on your organization specific mission and size. Some organizations have a budget that pay for a lot more equipment, or maybe you have a building as part of your nonprofit. That's a very large expense. It will take up a larger percent than a nonprofit does a building, for example. But some statistics show that about 50 to 70% of average nonprofit budgets are reserved for paid staff. And
this is one of the most critical elements, because we're talking about a balanced budget, meaning you can do what you said you're going to do. Okay?
And I want to make something really clear in that paid staff is not the same as overhead. So you're not saying that 60 to 70% of your nonprofit budget is overhead. Overhead is costs associated with the administrative, managerial, or fundraising aspects of your organization. But many of the paid staff that you have are running programs. So the salaries for those staff members are actually program expenses, not administrative or fundraising expenses. So that does. All right. Question number 3 is, how do you know how much money you put in your budget for expenses? And I always say, to answer this question, the first thing you want to do is actually step outside of the budget and look at what your goals are for the organization's mission for the next year. Let's say going to basically make a shopping list of everything you're gonna need to effectively serve 100 people. Is it staff to manage coordinating the services for those 100 people? Is it software you need to manage your communications with all those 100 people? Is it insurance, liability insurance, because you have programming that might have some risk to it? What are all these different costs? Do you have day-to-day supplies you need to take? All right, question number 4 is what percent of a nonprofit budget should be spent on program costs versus administrative or fundraising costs? This is getting back to that overhead question. Okay, so this is a super loaded question that has gotten a lot of scrutiny over the past 10 years or so, for many reasons, but 2 of the main reasons are, 1, institutions and people can't seem to agree on what the correct percentage should be or needs to be. The numbers are a little bit all over the place. And 2, it has come to light that this program ratio, the percent of money that a nonprofit spends on their programming versus other expenses like fundraising and administrative or managerial costs, it's come to light that that percent is not actually a clear or good indicator of how much of an impact the nonprofit is making. And since as donors or the general public, what we mostly care about is how big of an impact is the nonprofit making, looking to that ratio as the answer has proven to be ineffective. It's not really clear, and learn about it for yourself. Question number 5 is, do salaries count as program expenses, management, or fundraising expenses in the budget? This ties back to a lot of the things we've been talking about. And the answer is, it depends what that staff person is doing with their time. If you have an executive director and they're spending half their time on programs and 25% of their time on fundraising and 25% of their time on managing the rest of the team, then that percentage breakdown is how you could also show their salary in the budget. 50% of their salary is program expense, and they're spending 50% of their time on program expense. So hopefully that makes sense. There's a misconception that all paid staff at nonprofits just equals overhead, but as we talked about here, that is not the case. What matters is how staff is spending their time. Question number 6, how big are the budgets of most nonprofits? So if you're curious how your organization compares or where you might fall when you throw a bit. If you're looking at data for organizations in the United States based on IRS data, most nonprofits, around 60% of nonprofits, have budgets of $250,000 per year or less. And when you're talking about the range higher than that, so $500,000 per year or less, you're talking about 88% of nonprofits. So the vast majority of nonprofits are smaller organizations that are based in a city or based in a community and have these much smaller budgets. There are, of course, organizations with multi-million-dollar budgets, but as the show, they are not the most common. And what we know, all right, question number 7, this is our final question about nonprofit budgets for today, and that is, what are some common mistakes that you might be prone to making when creating a nonprofit budget? And the top mistake I would say is not getting your estimate right. So that might mean overestimating how much money you're going to bring in, your revenue, and underestimating your expenses. So it's really, really important to get that research right. And again, like I said, we're adding that buffer of 10 to 50% to account for perhaps some of this research and inflation and other.
Okay, now you see why I did what I did. I think for me, this was giving you information that I believe in and distinctly, and you can do the follow-up. One thing that typically happens, give you a little caveat we're going to go here, is typically when you're writing a grant, they look at about they'll fund about 15% of your budget is what they want to see, because they don't want to be funding your whole project, or everything is dependent on them, and, you know, especially if it's a new relationship, if you've got money from them before, and you know, they invite, because there's invitational grants and stuff like that as well. But 15% of your total budget is about what they expect to see or will fund for an agency that keeps it in those margins. And all of this is how do you get within the acceptable range of what they're looking for, acceptable best practices, or what's happening. And as you do your research, that's what you want to understand. I'm applying to this agency for this money. Who do they usually give grants to, and how much do they give them? And so learning about the agencies and then having them learn about you. And that's one reason having your mission, and basically I encourage nonprofits to operate like real business. Have a business plan, have a full-on business plan, have a lawyer, have a banker, have what it takes to do business. The only difference is that the revenue goes back into the agency and people get paid for what they do. That's the only difference. So looking at it, look at it seriously. And a lot of people get fouled up with the profit, nonprofit. You have to keep that completely, because you get one building and you're both in there and you're sharing. I get pulled on by for-profits all the time, but I mainly do nonprofit. So keep it straight, get your accounting early on, you know, your banker or your accountant can help with that, and tie it to your budget. When you're going for a grant, tie it to it and tell them, our chart of accounts this will fit right into our chart of accounts. So give them a comfort level to know that you're not just putting it in a drawer, or it's going into whichever account you want, and you have 12 accounts. And so anyway, so these are some, are there any questions? This was such a short time, but I wanted to, go ahead.
When this relates to searching for a grant,
Yeah.
when you have something very specific in mind, like when I noticed I did an initial search a lot of things onto the category, looking for, is there a certain keywords, and maybe it's covered in here, like a project grant, is that a category or keyword to look for?
Right.
Okay.
Especially if you have your mission and what your activities are, and the population is probably the key. Who are you serving? Why are you serving them? Where are they at? And with your services, where they're going to be. You basically, you just have to keep it. That's why they have so many different databases or places to look. You just keep the needles in the haystack.
Yeah.
And the best one is the grant. When you go to the library or a foundation center and use their account to search, they're the broadest. Nonprofits, or actually the funding agencies, spend millions and millions of dollars to get to their needles in the haystack, to find the people that they want, or the organizations that they want to give money to. They spend a lot of time. Yes.
When you say libraries or foundation centers, so public libraries, what foundation centers, can you clarify what that might look
Just
like?
search for them. You go to your library, they can help find the local foundations.
And that's what you're going to.
And some of the libraries will have an account, and if you have a remote access, you could potentially.
Like, for example, Los Angeles Public Library.
Right. Right.
The California State Library actually maintains a database on behalf of the state of California for all the grants that the state offers.
Cool. I took a photo.
Yeah, scan the QR code. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so any other questions? And like I said, contact Terrence, he'll just send you the link.
Yeah.
To there, and we'll have conversations, and for me, we have to be able to help each other. We learn by, like what you say, by saying or by doing. So if we can help someone else by doing and helping them do, then we're better as a community. You have a question about your?
I want to announce some grants
Sure.
that maybe people can work on in the next 2 months and come back to
Okay.
you for more.
March, we're having another grant writing workshop in March, right? So please.
So hi, Anna Stump, Chair of the Public Arts Advisory Committee, and also I want to introduce you Paul Razzo and Sarah Lyons, also on the PAAC.
because we are a public, committee, we cannot answer your individual questions because that would be, against the Brown Act. But the 29 Palms does have small grants. If you're new to grant writing, if you are serving citizens of 29 Palms, you are eligible to apply. You do not have to live in 29 Palms or have your business or organization centered here, but you must serve the community here. They're up to $1,000 and they are creative grants. So if you are doing performing arts, visual arts, writing, anything like that, you can apply for up to $1,000 from the PAAC, as long as you're serving 29 Palms. Also, just got text, the TVID, the tourism
That's right.
business, they will be coming out with their grant guidelines next week. But just got a little bit of an update on that, up to $3,000 with no match. If you can provide an event for 29 Palms, your organization or individual, they will give you $3,000. And then from $3,000 to $20,000, there is a 50% match. So that's something interesting that you guys might want to eventually cover.
Yep.
A grant that's not fully funding you, you have to come up with half the money or half the funding. But that will be coming up next week. It'll be open.
Can I tell you about that? Oh, well, we got questions, so please keep
Is there a
going. Yeah,
way
yeah.
that we can access, like a compilation of all these places to access for us?
You'll be able to find some of those resources on our site. We're gonna be posting grants from time to, and that's join our Facebook community. Yep. Yep.
That's for the city side?
These are both city grants, City of 29 Palms money going into events and arts.
I think we have 3 or 4 questions, but
I just need to know, sorry, what was the name, the grant, that you talking about for 3,000?
TVID, Tourism Business Improvement District for 29 Palms. It is on the city website.
Okay,
And you can, it'll be on the agenda for the TVID meeting on Thursday
Yep.
for next week.
so if I have a cookie business, I can, a question, if I have a cookie business in 29 pounds, I can like try to provide for like a Veterans Day or provide an event for them?
Yeah.
And that would,
Yeah.
okay, go ahead and.
It can't be a nonprofit?
Nope,
No.
nope, you do not. You can be a business and apply for that money.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody, I'm Charity, owner of Hudson Milk Club. Nice to meet everybody. With that being said, we emphasize a lot about collaborating or getting to know each other. I don't know a lot of you in our business. So maybe after towards the end, we could maybe say a little bit about our business so we can know who we should be trying to write grants with or who we can do what with.
that is what this space is for. That's literally what it's for, is for y'all to meet each other and, learn what each other is working on, how to collaborate, share ideas. So, yeah, network. Yeah, absolutely.
Can I ask a quick question? Just by a show of hands, I guess. Was this useful? I mean, my format and what I did, hopefully, I a little bit of feedback. And that's what you need to do with your participants, is get their feedback. Let them tell you, how it was.
Mm.
One more question for that. So is it, how hard is it to get a grant for a specific thing? Like if you have a nonprofit and they need, they've been established for a while, they need help, their heating system's going out, like the housekeeping type stuff, or their overhead trucks for their art events and things like that is falling down. I mean, that's very specific. So how do you search for
But
that?
your board is your most good, because they will look at your board as a foundational piece. They will invest in you if it's a sound investment. If you can make a case for who you're serving, and you have the administrative and the oversight and the budgeting, bang for.
Yeah, that's what,
So that, all of that factors
I think
into.
you can earn it for your programming.
Yeah.
And that frees up your money to pay for your
so it can be
non-sexy
that,
stuff.
okay.
A hybrid approach to funding. And that's where innovation is one of the things nowadays that they're looking for, because they see the same thing over and over. So if you can kind of innovate on something and utilize and leverage other things that might increase the efficacy of your program, the actual outcomes of your program. That'll be attractive to funding, because they're looking for new, that's why collaboration is so strong, because they're looking for new combinations of people coming together that collaborate on a particular audience. It's all audience specific.
And that's, I mean, I think that that's what Kenneth was going back in terms of needle in the haystack. It goes both ways, right? You can, it's almost like, when I apply for jobs, like I just like spray and play and I don't hear anything back ever, right? But if I no, this is the one, this is my dream place, and I'm gonna write the best resume and I'm gonna write a cover letter and I'm gonna add everybody on LinkedIn and I'm gonna send them messages about what it is that I'm gonna do, right? And the impact that I'm gonna have. Well, if you are, in my opinion, not in line with how specific your program is and how it's not for everybody, that almost like saves your time on the front end in terms of who you're actually reaching out to, right? And you're saying, okay, well, these are the 10 nonprofits that I'm going to focus on maybe for the year and working on really understanding the metrics that keep their lights on. Or, well, yeah, right?
And let me say this. Just because they turn you down the first time doesn't mean that you didn't have a great proposal, but there could be people or organizations in the queue. You coming back a second year and showing that you lasted a year and you're coming back and you may have different needs, that is wrong. They look at that. So just because they turned you down, don't say that you weren't in the queue or you didn't make a good proposal. They say don't get caught up on that as a mindset, right? Unless they tell you something.
And that's, and it's okay to ask for feedback. That's actually what I've recognized. Like there'll be like grant makers that don't offer any feedback and I'm shooting in the dark. And I don't even apply for those anymore. You know what I mean? But the grants that if I apply and I don't get turned down, and if I say, hey, listen, I'm okay with getting turned down, but it took me 20 hours to put this application in. What are you looking for? What did I do right? What was wrong?
And that could be in a phone call.
Or
Yeah, right?
it depends, but but yeah, ask for feedback. How can I improve this? Because otherwise, like you're just shooting in the dark and it's not a waste, it's a waste of everyone's time. If I'm not what you're looking for, it's a waste of everyone's time.
I'm a for-profit. I'm a for-profit, and my reason I came here today is because, I am not ADA compliant in one shape or another in my own building. And anybody know if there's ways to access ADA grants?
Well, if you don't own the building, the person who owns the building is actually responsible. If it's a public and they own the building, you're not, that's their responsibility. Unless you have a special agreement that says you're gonna, take care of that responsibility.
Does that bar you from getting grants? Is that stopping you from getting funding?
No, it's just been eating at me for 20 years, so I'm not eating.
But it does stop you. It does.
For sure.
State and federal.
It does, you have to comply, the compliance is. And so there's grants or whatever you want to write it for, make it good enough page and support doing it and showing the outcomes of benefits. Talk to the state, but talk to the owner. Because he's for profit and right. Any other questions or?
Yeah, I can share. To start a nonprofit, I think it's interesting to like what the price point of starting a nonprofit. Start one to get your 501c3.
Right.
There's like there's a few different layers of it. And information on that.
Okay.
501c3 or 501c4.
So Basic Life Foundation is our community foundation up here, and that is an umbrella organization and will incubate nonprofits. So if you have some, basiclifefoundation.org, if you have some idea and need some kind of fiscal sponsor to get your nonprofit started, it's how Sky's the Limit got started. For the observatory, it's how the Miracle League Field got built. and started in Yucca. So it's definitely a community organization for this rural basin. So basinwidefoundation.org. Basinwidefoundation.org. They also do a nonprofit, they do like a quarterly luncheon of networking, but they also do a nonprofit, training every year and things like that. But they are an incubator and, not very widespread and very public as they were in the day.
So this one, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, so our affiliates, I'm actually on the board of directors. So, our affiliates there, we incubate them, and like I said, it's how Sky's the Limit got started and spun off, it's how America League Field got started and spun off.
And then community partners, which is out of Los Angeles, is another one. And in this case, you will create a business plan that you submit by answering the question. And so you can't go wrong by having a business plan. Spreadsheets and all the calculations for benefits and percentages and all that. You put in the numbers. So, community partners is one that you can apply for. On the odd, at the first of the odd one, January, March, May.
Oh. So,
So we, I'm Matt Case, I'm on the board of directors for the Highway Sanctuary for our nonprofit in the Heights. We do own our property, however, it's zoned commercial, but it used to be a residence.
Right.
And we probably do need to make ourselves more ADA compliant. It's accessible, but not necessarily compliant.
Right.
Are there resources that or the places where I can find grants specific to,
They're kind of mixed in. I mean, go ahead, Karen, if you have,
well, I was just gonna say, I mean, I think that's when you can put your creative cap on. So when she had originally asked the question, the first thing that I did were ADA grant, or is it ADA?
ADA.
Yeah, ADA grants for organizations, and the American Diabetes Association had a very broad grant for improving the psychological health of people with diabetes, right? And so if you can then put on your creative hat and say, logically, I want to create this experience for, right, and people with diabetes fall within this umbrella,
Yeah.
right? It's then sort of taking general and broad language and applying it through the lens of the audience that they care about,
yeah,
right? To then get the funding, and then, okay, well, yes, it helps people with diabetes, but it also helps people that perhaps fall within the broader category that the grant looks to solve for.
sure.
Right, so
Okay.
it's not like, anyways, yeah.
And the ones that you want to look for are those that give money for disability. The
Yeah.
ADA is working, so if you do ADA, disabilities, upgrade. I just did a search here, Dreamscape Foundation, Disabilities Foundation grant for not serving disabilities in California. 84 California Disability Grant. So it follows that, and disabilities, get your technology stuff for disabilities, because the quality of life and access to resources through technology is a no-brainer. You get no pushback from anybody.
Accessibility.
on that.
So, right, so I feel like, okay, well, we're gonna use the funds in order to make our website friendlier from a, right, people suffering from
That's
diabetes.
easier.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And you might take $5,000, I mean, say it's a $25,000 grant, you could take $5,000 and apply that to what you said you're going to do.
Right.
And then make perhaps the broader improvements that you really.
Yeah, and ours is kind of like, we have a vision that is wildly similar to what I have up at the, periphery.
I love that. Oh, man, yeah, you're just talking about North Point. Yeah.
These are artists. You probably heard of them.
We want to be able to create a sculpture garden. But bringing in artists from the basin, sometimes from beyond, but we really want to focus on the basin to create large sculptural pieces, and at the same time, during a residence where they might create that piece, they would also create workshops, have a workshop to be able to bring the community in, so it can be both inspirational for the community members, also like meet the makers type of, you know,
Right.
type of situation,
Makers
things like that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the, you know, our property where we're doing most of the sculpture garden is on a slope.
Sure.
It's desert.
So do you have an architect or, someone that can actually draw up some plans, or at least give you a quote for creating the proposal of how it becomes ADA compliant or meets the needs of what you're programming?
I definitely do not have.
So you should look for one, and typically, they can give you a general overview, but then you can maybe write them in to actually oversee. You got a question here?
Yes, in terms, I was curious of what I want to build, because a nonprofit would fall under disabilities. In particular, what is in grief, and I know I have a domain for human grief. I've had for several years, and my background is working with yoga and mindfulness. And I feel like the common thread that I always face is levels of grief people are sitting
Right.
with, and a lack of support groups, lack of support for people that are grieving pets or children, or just wanting, and I have a thread of therapists I can connect people to. So I'm wondering, would I, in applying, would where would I be?
It's how you frame it, and who your practitioners are. Does it help? It could be
Mental health.
it could be mental health, so you have to just look at the terminology and then use that terminology to search for specific grants. And disability probably has something for you in that whole arena.
Yeah,
I like when you think about wellness, wellness is like, oh, we eating healthy, are we moving? So when you look at the practical, I'm proud.
yeah,
You know, and
that
then
makes
like,
sense, would fall under that, because
Yeah.
it's part of what.
so like whenever you, oh my God, you
Okay.
always thinking like, oh,
Yeah.
that wellness is always like this big.
That's the largest industry in the world.
Yeah, that's my thing. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
So if the average percentage of funding, 15%, does that imply that a nonprofit has 7 sources of funding that you're having to get?
They
7
like the
grants?
diversity, they don't necessarily, unless you're totally matched up with all 5 of their missions or all the things that they get, that's the other thing, when you're doing grants, you might really be solid in one area out of 5, but if you can touch on the other areas and kind of innovatively tie the other areas, and you're not even applying for those, but when they see it, it becomes a trigger and you gain more points by doing that. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, and I'm really glad to hear it. I'm just thinking that, if you wanna theoretically get 7 different grants in a year, you're spending a lot of time.
Well,
doing
but see,
that.
your information is typically the same, and the thing is, if you focus on a government or one of the locals, that will give you credibility, which will open things up much broader, they won't be scrutinizing you as much. It's work, but in the end, making it sustainable or renewable is part of the planning that needs to go in, because they're gonna ask you, what are you gonna do next year when you don't have the money? Does the program go away? So these sort of things, it is a lot.
Yeah, just on that point, you might also develop a fee for service.
A membership
model as a
program,
part of your
exactly.
revenue.
A
That
hybrid,
you're
yeah.
not just giving your service away.
Right.
But you're actually saying, okay, we
Reduce
actually have
rate
things
or-
that do
right.
sustain us in addition to.
What if your mission is to provide free services? for
But that's-
people and you have
But
your
that goes back to the accountability on who you are serving, the impact that you're gonna have, and the requirements in order to have that impact, right? So that you can
And
then,
forgive me if this is a foolish question, but if that's your mission, then theoretically, I'm gonna be, if 15% of each grant is only gonna cover, if each grant's only gonna cover 15% of my budget, I'm writing 5 or more grants per year just to be sustained.
totally,
Right.
well, and but
That's
see,
realistically, that's.
Yeah.
That's the best practice. I mean, they'll fund 50 or 20, whatever, it depends on relation, but just know going into it, that could potentially be the case.
So, and then to that other point though, right, so if we're then mindful, like, okay, you know, and this also depends on like where you are in the cycle, but let's say that you are sophisticated enough and that you do have 7 sources of funding, right? And now 1 or 2 of them is getting ready to leave, right? You know, that was for 2 or 3 years and then, you know, that ran out, right? So from a planning perspective, it's, you know, understanding the current support that you have, right? The programs, the services that you have, who finds value in it, excuse me. Oh man, I totally just like brain farted right there. But
Who finds value in it and how can you maintain that over the long haul for?
well, and so that, oh yes, so, and going back to this brother's point right here regarding the diversification, right? And going back to my point earlier on like touchdowns and layups, well, we know it's going to take you a little bit of time in order to land that touchdown to perhaps replace the grant, right? But, you know, perhaps like translating that program that require, like figuring out some like low fidelity or like simpler way of doing it, you know, perhaps that can be a product that you can sell against. It can be a membership program. You can perhaps do like an annual fundraiser or an event, for example. I've seen like with the casino nights or, you know, silent auctions, right? And then based off of your ability to document the results of that, right? You can literally translate that into a grant request. Hey, well, you know, we lost this funding and we were scrappy and we decided that we were going to do a fundraiser in order to help the people that, you know, lost this grant funding, right? And then
And the media is the best friend, because that's where you find people can find you that you might not know about. So do your press releases, do testimonials, invest a bit in the marketing and outreach, and realize you're doing your services are geographically bound. So understand the geography and the overall census and the demographics of the population that you're serving. And you could change your mission to stay free and near free, you know, just so that you don't, so people know that they can make a donation. And oftentimes, if people are getting something, they don't mind donating. So anyway.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
no doubt.
Now, see how we're focusing on individuals? That's what we can do online if you can tell your story and create the situation that you're in. Because people are very helpful when it comes down to we just need an efficient way to actually collaborate and have the dialogue and forum.
I just wanted to say, I know, I don't have a nonprofit, I'm for-profit, but I work with a lot of nonprofits, my company. I have a lot of friends that have nonprofits. It is very overwhelming, there's a lot of work, but it also is automation. It seems like, it's just like Steve, it's just like everything else. And I think sometimes as business owners or project runners or whatever, we get our dreams and then we get like the concept of making it happen and we're adults, so then we get discouraged. So I just want to encourage everyone to just like use this opportunity and use this information to break down how you can make what you want to make happen. Again, there's already been an emphasis of like talking amongst the room, like there's people that might already be doing what you're doing and there's like 2 or 3 of them instead of yourself, but there is automation because essentially like in 2020 I was making so much money to do so many things and I was literally using the same template, but I was also working online with a group out of Detroit and we were all doing the same thing. So I just, you know, don't be overwhelmed.
Mindset. Mindset. Mm-hmm. All right, y'all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's just like every 5 minutes.
And card? Got one?
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to come up and say, you know, this is what I do. That's my plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, they're gonna be. So, Right now. Now that we're done, we don't have to, because I know what's such
Like, I call that.
So how's it going over there?
Yeah.
Creatively, like. That's like, you know, yeah, and I like that. Like, landscape, like,
Yeah.
I love kind of like.
Yeah. Same.
I like the, what you're saying about your, for a while, there's like a thing of artists that got really, not
Yeah. I'll send you an email. I'll have these together. What's your name? Right, you know, and I'm like, so I had all, you know.
Way up.
So I'm. But then I.
I love it.
So you're like, that's how you.
You know, and I think that's.
Yeah.
Of course, thank you so much.
that's a lot of it, you know,
Or we're members, or for us.
Just has like this.
They do what you're supposed to do. So it's every other Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and then
Without more.
feeling of being deflated.
I don't know, it's-
See, it really is different. Yeah. Don't listen to me, I'm just a copy guy, you know, maybe you wanna read that or check that out, or this is how I came to that conclusion, right? Versus, I'm gonna beat you down and let you suffer.
It's livable and happy right now. I had to walk around the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be around, definitely cover.
Yeah.